In a quiet little town, on a street lined with sunflowers and scooters, stood a sturdy little mailbox named Posty. Every morning, just as the birds began their soft, chirping songs and the sun painted golden swirls on the pavement, Posty stood proud and ready at the end of Maple Street. He wasn't just any mailbox. Oh no, Posty took his job very seriously. Rain or shine, wind or snow, he stood tall, watching, waiting, and always wondering what letters the day might bring. One gentle morning, as a soft breeze tickled the wind chimes and made them giggle, something curious happened. A letter dropped into Posty's belly with a plop. That wasn't the curious part, it was the letter itself. The envelope was plain white, but right in the middle, just above the flap, there was a strange smudge of color. Not red, not blue, but something else. It looked like a swirl of wildflowers after the rain. A curious color. Posty stared at it, wiggling just a little on his post. It was purple. But the address line was smudged too, blurred and blotchy, like someone had spilled a teardrop right where the words were supposed to be. How would he ever know where it belonged? Posty knew one thing for sure. This letter needed to be delivered. That was his job. And he was very good at his job. So with a tiny creak and a determined tilt, Posty wobbled down from his post, just for a little while, and began rolling slowly down the sidewalk. Clunkety-clack, clunkety-clack. On rolled Posty, steady and slow, where the sidewalk stretches and soft winds blow. The first house Posty came to had a swing set in the yard and a blanket drying in the sun. The house was cheerful, and the fence had just been painted a bright, happy yellow. But Posty paused. The flowers in the garden were tall and twirly, their petals fluttering in the breeze. Some were blue, some were pink, and then he saw it. Tucked near the mailbox, hidden behind a laughing daisy, was a blooming patch of purple pansies. Posty stopped. His lid lifted just a little, the letter poking out like a question. Could this be the place? He looked closer. The purple on the flowers was soft, like the hush of twilight. The smudge on the letter was bolder, deeper. Not quite the same. Posty gave a quiet little click. Not the right match. So off he went again, wheels humming gently against the path. Clunkety-clack, clunkety-clack. On rolled Posty, sturdy and true, searching for purple and a matching clue. Further down the street, Posty reached the house with the spinning garden whirligig. It turned and clicked with the breeze, casting colored shadows on the ground. This yard was bursting with colors. Red apples dangled from a tree. A hopscotch path had been chalked in orange and blue, and a pair of sneakers lay forgotten by the steps. But there, right beside a cozy porch swing, stood a mailbox with a giant painted butterfly on it, its wings a swirl of rich velvety purple. Posty rolled closer, heart thumping in his little metal chest. The purple was just right, not too light, not too dark. A perfect, curious match. Could this be it? He lifted the letter again. The colors danced together like they were old friends. But then Posty paused. The name on the butterfly mailbox was Luna, written in sparkly letters. And underneath, someone had drawn a tiny moon. But this letter, no moon, no name, just the smudge, it didn't belong here either. Posty didn't sigh. He didn't groan. He simply lowered the letter back inside and rolled on. Clunkety-clack, clunkety-clack. On rolled Posty with steady might through dappled shade and golden light. The sidewalk changed here, cracked and worn with tiny weeds peeking through. A squirrel darted by with a nut in its paws, pausing just long enough to twitch its tail at Posty before leaping up a tree. Posty passed a row of mailboxes. Some tall, some short, some with stickers of smiley faces. One was painted bright blue, another a gleaming silver. And then he stopped again. At the corner stood an old house with a garden full of vegetables. The leaves were wide and bright, the air smelled of soil and sunlight, and bees buzzed lazily between flowers. Here the colors were green. Not just one green, but a whole family of them. Minty green leaves, shiny green cucumbers, deep green spinach with curling tips. Posty felt something stir. A memory, maybe, of a garden he had passed before, of a letter dropped into his belly after a little boy ran out, covered in dirt and joy. He checked the letter again. Still purple. Still mysterious. Still unsent. The greens here were lovely, but they weren't the match. Still, Posty felt glad he'd come. Every color had its own feeling, and green was a soft one. Like a hug from a tree, he rolled on. Clunkety-clack, clunkety-clack. On rolled Posty, strong and kind, hoping the matching place he'd find. Time passed slowly, like syrup down a spoon. At the far end of the street, the houses grew older, their fences patchy, their porches wrapped in vines. Here a little brown dog napped in the sun, and wind chimes whispered secrets to the breeze. And then, Posty saw it. A wooden house, small and gentle-looking, with ivy climbing its rails and a crooked sign swinging on the door. And beneath the window, a little table sat with jars of paint, open and shimmering in the light. But what caught Posty's eyes was the brown mailbox. It wasn't plain brown like tree bark or muddy puddles. No, this brown had warmth. It was the color of cinnamon toast, the color of autumn acorns, the color of cozy. And right in the middle of the mailbox, painted carefully and proudly, was a big, beautiful swirl of deep purple, the same purple as the smudge on the letter. Posty felt something click. Not a mechanical click, a heart click. This was it. He gently lifted the letter, held it against the swirl. They danced together even in stillness. As Posty slid the letter into the box, the wind picked up just a little, sending a few crunchy brown leaves tumbling past. They spun and twirled and landed softly at his base. And Posty? He smiled on the inside. His wheels were tired. His post was calling. But oh, how proud he felt. Because he hadn't stopped. He hadn't given up. He had been curious and careful, thoughtful and true. Clunkety-clack, clunkety-clack. Back rolled Posty, proud and bright, through sleepy streets and fading light. The sun was lower now, coloring the sky with shades of purple and gold. And when Posty returned to his spot at the end of Maple Street, he gave a little wiggle, settled deep into his post, and closed his lid with a quiet click. Just in time for the stars to begin their twinkle. And as the moon rose, casting a soft glow over his sturdy little form, Posty dreamed of colors and letters, of gardens and paint jars, and of a job well done. But what was that? A little rustle in the wind, a soft plop inside his belly. Another letter. And this one? It had a green swirl. Wouldn't you like to know where that letter goes? Moral. Diligence means doing your best, even when it's tricky or slow. Being responsible can lead to beautiful discoveries.